I do like Arcane season 2's pacing if we look at it from like kind of like a macro top down sense. The only thing that I think is kind of weird with Arcane, I mean, there's two things. One, it's a bit of like the characterization. Personally, and again, without getting into spoilers, I think the relationship between these two is a bit rushed. I get the emotions behind it, and I understand why it technically does work. But I do think that Act 2, and this is something that I actually saw online, which kind of like thankfully validates my feelings. I do think Act 2 should have been 6 episodes instead of 3. I know that seems insane, but there's a lot that happened after the time skip that's doing a lot of heavy lifting for the show that I don't necessarily think it has the muscles for. I think Jinx having this close of a relationship with whatever her name is again believable in the most like literal sense, but I had just wished that we had become acclimated to this character more. I think her name is like Isha. Yeah, Isha. Agreed, it's been so fast-paced. Yes, it's been incredibly fast-paced. The other thing that I am tentatively okay with, but we'll see how it goes, is the fact that this is the last 3 episodes coming up for what seems like a massively open narrative. Like, we have only continued to expand what's happening in Arcane. And again, without giving spoilers, like Act 2 ended on such a huge cliffhanger that I trust that they know what they're going to do. But being a professional, it is a gargantuan task that they have faced themselves with wrapping up the story in 3 episodes from where it is now. It is pretty crazy, like what they're going to have to accomplish in roughly 2.5 hours. But like aside from that, I think the pacing has been really good. I don't think there's been an episode where I was like, I wasn't too into that, or like, that didn't really like make sense. I think the show is still phenomenal, like top of what animation can offer. I just think that there are aspects of Arcane that, like, you know, like with Caitlyn, I think in her relationship with I guess I'm not gonna spoil it. Caitlyn's relationship, and if you know the show, you know the show, I think came a little bit out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting her to do that. Like obviously they're playing up the drama between her and Vi. But I think just overall, generally, I think characterization could take some time, with there being 6 episodes for Act 2 instead of 3, because there we get I think things a bit more drawn out. I think the pacing behind the Black Rose also isn't great. It's understandable, and again, I knew it was going to happen because I saw signs in season 1, but that's only because I'm a League player, unfortunately. I knew that the Black Rose was coming, but there were like very, very subtle hints and signs of it in season 1, and if you didn't know what to look for, you wouldn't know. I do have a worry, again, about just the expansiveness and how quickly things are coming into play. Mel being with the Black Rose, Echo just not even being here yet, Heimerdinger not even being here yet, Jace coming through. I'm trying to be as vague as possible. It's very good, but we will see. Everything hinges on the ending, obviously, and then I think they've already confirmed like spinoffs. So yeah, it's going to be one of those like make it or break it type deals towards the end. I appreciate the nods to the lore with Singed. I think there'll be more series done in other parts of the world, almost certainly. I don't think they're going to bring in like the Black Rose as they have done, and then effectively, I'm going to say a name here, and if you know it, you know, and if you don't, you don't. I don't think they're going to bring in like Oriana without having something for her to do. Maybe not in this series, but later series. I also think that the Void is going to be brought in. There's a lot of people who are looking at some of the things that are happening in Arcane with the architecture and just the stylization of the design that believe the Void is going to be playing a bigger role. The Black Rose has to play a bigger role. I do not see them being, you know, like effectively done after like one season, because they really weren't in season 1. because there's like 3 big bads in League, and the Black Rose is linked to one of them. So I'm 100% thinking that they're just going to go kind of like a Marvel route of, even though this specific story is going to be done, they have so many different stories and timelines to play with. And I think we're going to be getting Riot making a lot more animation. I wouldn't be surprised though if the animation for the additional seasons isn't as good. It'll probably still be good, but I don't think they want this to take as long as it has. Arcane season 1, I think, came out here. Let me see. I'm screaming at my computer apparently. When was season 1 released? Yeah, this came out in 2021. So I think it started production in like 2019, maybe earlier. And we are now in 2024. So, right. So even if it's just release by release, we're 3 years into this. And I would think for 2 seasons, 3 years is a bit long, especially for 9 episodes in a season, right? We used to get animation that was there was 20 episodes of Avatar, and granted, again, Avatar is half the length of Arcane, so really 9 episodes of Arcane is like 18 episodes of Avatar, but that still doesn't count about like storyboarding all these things, and again, like separately animating and finding voice actors and all that in production. We used to get far more episodes of individual seasons of storytelling. Telling 20 episodes is more difficult than 10 or 9, like even if they're the same length of time. They said it took 6 years to make season 1, but 3 years to make season 2. So they're finding their groove. I still think, yeah, that is true. They're finding their groove, but I think 3 years to make a single season of animation is still quite a long time. And let's just say they get it down to 2 years. I do think, and maybe I'm in the minority here, I would rather have the show be able to be done quicker and investigate more things than real Kiwi hours. Did you just throw a slur at me? Are you attacking me and my character? But thank you for the $5. But yeah, I'd rather have the show be able to explain more things, I think, at a quicker pace and have slightly worse animation than be waiting like 3 years at a time. I think we are in an age of fiction where you really have to capitalize on the forward momentum of your IP. I think League is helping a lot with people staying interested because League is eternal for some reason. So like people have stayed on from Arcane season 1 to Arcane season 2, but the door is always going to be closing on that. We never know when League's popularity is going to die down. I'm willing to wait for great animation and superb storytelling and characters. I don't want creators crunch on or corners cut. I don't necessarily, I'm not saying that I think corners should be cut or like creators to be on a crunch. I just think that the animation is so insanely good right now and so detailed that it's above and beyond what we would be satisfied with. And this is like consistent for me pretty much always. I will always take the story over like how the story is told, right? Or like how it's like presented, unless obviously the presentation of the story like changes the story, right? Like, you couldn't tell, you couldn't shoot Star Wars on a budget of $1,000, right? But there are a lot of stories where you could effectively tell the same story on a much smaller scale for a much smaller budget. I do think Arcane has found its niche in being very pretty and having unique animation and being stylized. But I also think that some of the choices that they've made that are really good animation, they could put less effort into doing like the crazy good stuff. Like, let me see if I can even find like stills of them. I don't want to spoil stuff, but like all of these just look like paintings. It's so pretty. And I'm okay with things looking a little less pretty if we can get them more consistently. That's all I'm saying. Personally, I'd be happy with them spending 4 years so they can match that quality, take the time, do amazing things. Remember all the times that animation changed to pass certain feelings and all of that? If they took that out, the story would suffer. Again, I don't know if I'm not being clear or not. I still think if things are done for the purpose of the storytelling, keep them in. I'm just saying, like, the insane fight scenes. So I guess here's like an example. If anyone has seen like Hunter x Hunter, like the Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter is, from an action perspective, pretty freaking boring. And Hunter x Hunter isn't like an incredibly beautiful show, but the storytelling in Hunter x Hunter is so good that the Chimera Ant arc becomes phenomenal television, like regardless of whether or not the action scenes are really cool. And it's like 60 some odd episodes. So I think as long as the animation can still allow the story to be told in the best way possible, but you remove some of the frills, I would rather have the frills removed, right? So like, for example, instead of like a 4, 5, 6 minute fight scene, I'm fine with a 2-minute fight scene. I'm fine with like a 3-minute fight scene. I think if you consistently do things like that, and you could take production time from like, you know, like 4 years, 3 years, and you get it down to, you know, like maybe 2 years, 2.5 years, I think that's a good trade-off. Because what I don't want to have happen, and because what Hollywood is so bad at doing, is keeping production teams together. The fact that Arcane season 2 is even nearly as good as season 1 when being made like and released 3 years after is already insane to me, because so often Hollywood just changes. Like people in Hollywood, like you never know if you're gonna get the same like writers, the same editors, the same directors. You never know if you're gonna get the same animators, the same Foley artists, the same sound designers. Like 3 years is an eternity in Hollywood, right? That's why people generally only really work on one thing at a time, and they're lucky to be able to get a gig again. So, you know, and by that, you know, if stuff in Arcane is taking like 4 years to make, you never know if the quality is going to be able to be kept the same, you know, if we're going like 4, 5, 6 seasons deep, because like, you know, that's 20 years. And like, I would rather them capitalize on the talent that they have, knowing that they're going to put out like a phenomenal product, even if they like, I think like take some stuff away, than have them work on stuff that's like, I don't want to say needlessly pretty, but like ridiculously pretty, but then possibly stuff happen down the line where they can't meet that threshold again, if that makes sense. It's kind of crazy that it looks even better. I believe it's a French studio. It does look better. I don't know what they did, but it looks better. Where they said it's only getting 2 seasons. That's not what I'm talking about. They've already said they're going to do spin-offs, and I don't want the spin-offs to take like 3-4 years each. Is that what happened with House of the Dragon? That's why season 2 wasn't as good? Yes, actually, like literally. And me saying these things probably seems a bit weird, because obviously like I'm the storytelling guy. So like, you know, you would think I'd be like, oh, take as much time as you need. But like Hollywood is just the death of storytelling. It's the death of art. And so many different factors happen. So like House of the Dragon, yes, exactly what happened was that they lost talent from season 1 going into season 2, and it's very visible and evident that the same people weren't working on House of the Dragon. And I just would not want to see that happen with Arcane. Is it gonna happen? I don't know. They could probably keep everyone forever. No clue. Rick and Morty has been going on for like what, like 10 years now? Something like that. I think 11 years, because it came out in my freshman year of college. And they've pretty much consistently kept, I think, like everybody who's a part of like the core team, well, except for the one person. And maybe, you know, Arcane can do that, but I just wouldn't want to risk it. I'd want to capitalize on like what they have now. I think we'll have to agree to disagree. I can't see any reason to downgrade anything, because it would take away from the special sauce of Arcane. I don't know if I can say it differently, and maybe we will have to agree to disagree. But I just think that like stuff like this, which again is almost like a painting, it is so ridiculously over the top beautiful, and I appreciate it for it. I just think they don't have to do stuff like this all the time. Right? Like, it's kind of how, in a way, if you've heard of like Stanley Kubrick films, Stanley Kubrick is a perfectionist. And when he was like making like The Shining, right, there was a scene of Shelley Duvall. Right? There's a scene, this is a very famous scene, like in like the mythos of just of directors and storytellings and all that kind of stuff. But Shelley Duvall, I'm pretty sure, had to do this scene like 4, 5 dozen times because Kubrick was like, he wanted the perfect shot. And I'm pretty sure she got like eye damage from having to cry with her like for like hours and hours. And now, sure, did he have a vision in his mind about like what he wanted? About the perfect shot, like the highest tier shot that he wanted? Of course. But like realistically, would like one of the other 50 or so takes that he did work? Yes. And it would have been a phenomenal take because The Shining itself is phenomenal. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not that I'm asking for a degradation in quality. In fact, I'm asking for a specificity in how the talent of the high quality is used. Because we don't necessarily need for things to be like, again, painting level, like insane Sistine Chapel quality for every single shot. Everything needs to look beautiful all the time, but everything doesn't need to look immaculate all the time. And that's all I mean. I see what you're saying. The problem is the bar has already been set and the audience will have a severe reaction when quality drops. Seven to Lead Single was good until season 3 it flopped. See, okay, but that's, again, I still think there's a nuance. People are accustomed to high quality. I wouldn't say that they are only ever going to watch anything from an Arcane franchise or like an Arcane series that only ever looks as good, right? Like there's a whole bunch of things that went into Seven Deadly Sins not being as great and like, you know, it falling off. I'm still saying that there should be an incredibly high bar for excellence for Arcane and other animations, both storytelling and visually. But I also think, because I believe, and I've just seen this, if you make a good product and the story is good enough, people aren't going to care if it's like marginally less pretty, if it's still ridiculously pretty, right? Like you're still gonna watch it, right? Like, and if you don't watch it, I feel like that's more of a commentary on you. If you're like, oh, this is only really beautiful and not incredibly beautiful, I don't want to watch it anymore. Like, I don't know, like we can't make stories for people like that. To me, it's like it's a concern about capitalization on the market and like current times and stuff like that, and what you have. I think the big fight scene could have been cut for budget. There's tons of stuff that been cut for budget that I don't think would have necessarily, or at least slimmed down, that I don't think would have completely changed the story. And again, maybe that's the editor in me. Okay, so you're saying even if it's not a 10 out of 10, it's still an 8 out of 10. 8.5 out of 10, or even a 9 out of 10, or a 9.5 out of 10. Because for me, okay, this is maybe the perfect example if we're talking about numerics. Arcane to me, animation-wise, is 12 out of 10. Like legitimately, like no hyperbole, I think Arcane's animation is leaps and bounds better than almost anything else I've seen animation-wise in a very long time. I think they are perfectly within their rights to drop it down to like a 9.5 or a 10. I think Arcane is revolutionizing how people think about visual storytelling. And I wish I could show clips, but this will just get completely demolished. And I think it's okay for them to keep really high quality storytelling, but have like a 9.5 animation out of 10, or like a 10 out of 10 animation, because I think we are far past perfection. I think there isn't a single shot in Arcane that I can think of that's ugly. Honestly, I really dislike that TV seasons are coming out so far apart nowadays, and the fact that seasons are getting shorter. Captain Midnight made a perfect video on why it's hurting TV. Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about. I haven't watched the Captain Midnight video, but I do think that it's not. I mean, I focus more on like the side when it comes to like the production team, but I do think that, like, you know, TV in general and storytelling isn't meant to have years between sequels, right? Or like connected storytelling. I think it can, you know, I think it can work, but I think for the most part, like, you know, the stories are supposed to be told with kind of like close knit to each other, and like having us wait all this time and seasons being shortened, I think bottleneck stories into being a certain way, and with our expectations, especially with things being so instant gratification now. The ugly shots are intentionally ugly beautiful, yes, and that's literally what I mean. Like, even the things that are ugly are beautiful purposefully. Yeah, if the animation isn't firing on all cylinders all the time, the production time would probably be way more efficient and it wouldn't hurt the overall quality of the show. Yeah, that's all I mean. I just mean that, like, we don't have to go balls to the wall with every single frame. That's literally all I mean. I don't mean dropping the quality. I just mean being more selective while also condensing the story down into something that can be delivered more consistently. Because I think, for me, you know, selfishly, I'd want to see, one, more frequent TV done like that. But then also just more like, you know, Arcane from the people who know how to make the stories like this.